Hi everyone, this is the fifth video in this series of 6 videos teaching you about food groups and how to rebalance your plate in order to use weight. This is about using the properties of foods, the way that they affect our body, our fullness, how many calories they have, how big they are, and how that can lead to weight loss. The most important food group, I believe, for human health is the group that I call power carbs. This is whole grains, potatoes, tubers are potatoes basically, and legumes, which are chickpeas, beans, and lentils. I think that almost everyone out there has a few of these foods that they like. You don't need to have that many, but this food group alone, if you add it to your diet, on average causes weight loss. It is the only food group shown to do this consistently in nutrition studies, and that's why it's really, really central. These are foods you have to flavor and make taste good. And so with power carbs especially, using light oil, light cheese, different flavors, a little bit of brown sugar in your oatmeal together with the fruit, that's exactly a strategy to help you get healthy because you need to enjoy food and you need to make it sustainable. So emphasize this group, find the foods that you like, flavor them so you enjoy it and make it more sustainable, and you'll do well. Light healthy carbs are white pasta, white rice, and bread. These are still helpful. It depends on the context. If you are using white pasta, high quality white bread, or white rice to lose weight, you just have to use them strategically, which is to say light on the fat and use them to eat lots of vegetables or to eat legumes. So some beans added to rice or pasta, a nice vegetable sandwich, white rice with an abundance of veggies, very small amount of protein if you're having it. White rice paired to things like sesame seeds and some nuts actually gives you the complete protein profile. So this is about using these foods in a way that causes weight loss. But you cover these foods in oil or fat or lots of the proteins, things change very quickly and they can become weight gaining. So that's why they need to be used with care. Veggies are really, really crucial, and so are fruits. We know that when you start a meal with a bunch of fiber that's low in calories, it helps you eat less, and that's exactly what vegetables are. You need to find maybe 4 to 6 or more vegetables that you enjoy. You need to figure out how you like them prepared. Some people like raw carrots. Some people would never eat cooked carrots, for example. And so for each one of these veggies, you have to consider how you like to eat it. Raw, cooked. If it's cooked, which way do you enjoy it? Which flavors do you add to it? Vegetables like power carbs. You need to make them taste good. You put some salad dressing on a big bowl of greens, guess what? You're putting fat on something that has no calories. It's helping you eat vegetables. Get vegetables in. If you can preload with them and start with the veggies, that's an excellent way to bring down your calories and push things. And the long-term vision is just the right balance here. And on this plate, you see plenty of veggies. Most of your energy is coming from healthy carbs, which includes power carbs and light healthy carbs. The healthy carbs are just as important as the vegetables. The protein, which is the egg, the dairy, the meat, or the seafood, has its role in our diet, but for weight loss, it's not helpful. That food group, while you're trying to lose weight, is ideally used to flavor healthy foods, to help you eat some vegetables, to help you eat power carbs especially. But there are pitfalls here. I've seen folks in the program, as their only change, just start to eat more quote-unquote carbs. And this is not something that works. White rice, white pasta, and white bread are not power carbs. So if it's the only addition to your diet, it's not going to help, most likely. And if you find yourself drifting off towards refined sort of carb products that are made by food companies, very refined, have stuff added to it, this is also something that's probably not going to help. At best, this situation, if you're not also adding lots of veggies and fruits and power carbs, the best situation here is that you don't lose weight, but enough variety in processed and refined carbohydrates can actually lead to weight gain. And so this is something I really try to make clear because it can be a big pitfall. This image right here is not what I'm saying about carbs. So I'd like to start going into a food group I call high sugar, high fat foods. So a lot of these foods are what people call carbs. Now that's not really that accurate, and these are immense sources of calories. These are foods that above a modest amount are very, very disease causing. Among all food groups, I would put this food group at the top of the foods that can lead to weight gain and to heart disease and to diabetes. You don't have to give them up. You can enjoy some of this stuff. But a key way that you reduce this stuff is to eat healthy carbs, power carbs and light healthy carbs. Those foods are what control cravings, especially sweet cravings and junk food cravings. You get more of the healthy carbs, it helps you to avoid your cravings and your draw and your drive to eat high sugar, high fat foods, which next to the protein food group, this is the other half of the Western diet. This is the sweets paired to the meats. The proteins promote cravings. The sweets come after, and you get a situation that's very, very weight gaining. All of these foods are related. What you have now affects what you eat later. And the high sugar, high fat foods, your craving for them is promoted by the proteins. And so you control that by getting more and more of the healthy carbs with plenty of fruits and veggies. Your cravings go down and you can succeed because you are not as drawn to these foods that everyone is drawn to because of the overall pattern of their diet. So this is a food group that many people clearly call carbs, which I will show you is just wholly inaccurate. These are mixtures of refined ingredients that makes them very high calorie for how small they are. And this is part of the ultimate Western way of eating, which is meats and sweets or snacks. Not enough veggies, not enough fruits, that's always been an issue, but also the carb phobia, not understanding carbs. And people land with the cravings from protein eating junk and sweets. That's part of the cycle. So these foods are a big part of it. And because they're high calorie, I think it's this pattern in these foods that are behind so much disease, including heart disease and diabetes. But the healthy carb food group, light healthy carbs, power carbs, are where you get carbs that control cravings and do their job for energy and work well and help you maintain a healthier body weight, keep your cholesterol low. And despite the fact that some of them raise your blood sugar a bit, they are helpful for diabetes management. They could not be more different from high sugar, high fat foods. So, we're looking at foods here where over half the energy is from fat plus sugar. I kind of don't care if something's low fat, because if the sugar plus the fat is over half the calories, I think it's a problematic food. And it's in this way that stuff that's technically low fat can actually be quite a problem. And sugar plus fat especially. So ice cream, it's saturated fat, tons of sugar. This really does trigger an addiction response in the brain. That combination in particular, fat plus sugar, plus a little bit of salt, just really gets to us. And it's part of the cycle of craving and the cycle of suffering. And the impact of these foods on your heart, on your liver, is quite profound, quite profound. It's the type of stuff that if you can get it out of your diet for a while, you can actually see an improvement in the plaques in your heart. Your fatty liver starts to reverse. And eating healthier reverses this stuff. If the carbs are higher and the fullness is better and the hunger is controlled and you have better energy, you are losing weight. And your cholesterol is going down. And your insulin resistance, if you have it, is going down. But back to these foods. So the ultimate is the frozen coffee drink, where 95% of the calories are coming from fat plus sugar. And this is easy to eat, easy to drink. It is not a stretch to say someone could finish this in a few minutes. And that too is a problem. And this is exactly how things like fatty liver happen. You are overwhelmed by how much refined fat and sugar are in this largely sort of liquid food. It is overwhelming to your body. And similar with cakes and cheesecake and stuff, mostly fat plus sugar. It's good to know that when you're having it. And if you eat healthy, you kind of want less of this stuff, so it kind of works together. You start to eat it appropriately. You're just more rational about it. So breads, holiday breads, it's pretty much cake. Ice cream. The one food group I would point to most as a cause of heart disease is ice cream. Not here to bash it. You can have it in your diet, but it is just quite a concoction. So things people call carbs, donuts. Nope, fat plus sugar. Sugar is not a carb. Refined sugar is its own thing. It is a carb, technically, but it's just so different from starch. So even things that appear healthy, I think if half the energy is just fat plus sugar, I don't think that's a healthy food. Muffins fall into that category. Of course, pie, no surprise there. Chocolate chip cookies, not a carb. It's fat and sugar. Scones. It's not a carb. It is. There's so much fat, so much sugar. Depending on the scone, most of the energy might even be from fat. Chocolate's actually a fat source. The rest is sugar. And even sort of, as I said, kind of low-fat, sort of marketed cereals that technically are low-fat, if you do the math and you look at the label and or look at the label and do the math, usually about half the energy is just from fat and sugar. And that's just what processed foods are. You just get mostly energy from these refined added ingredients. And even these nicely marketed, healthy sort of snacks. I think I've seen a lot of people buy these. I've bought them myself. Not here to bash the brand. It's fine to have some of this stuff, but most of the energy is fat plus sugar. It's not a health food. Not in those proportions. And real carbs, again, are the opposite. So this kind of trap, though, you've got the pull of meats and sweets. You've got the fight against that causes you to drop some of the high sugar, high fat foods, not get them out of your diet. You make the mistake of cutting out the potatoes also. You cut out the pasta when that's not really part of the problem. That's probably a bystander. But you're not in ketosis. You're eating high sugar, high fat foods. You're reducing helpful foods. You're eating more vegetables. You're eating more protein. But nothing's happening. And there's 5 or 6 different reasons why. And a lot of people don't get the high sugar, high fat foods down low enough to do a real low carb diet. So it's good to know food groups. It's good to know the high sugar, high fat foods and how they fit in. And so that dessert, this comparison on the right side, that dessert, it is flour and sugar and saturated fat, and you could not cram more calories in a given space than something like that. In fact, that dessert is probably the same amount of calories as is in that entire bowl of food on the left side, which, as we've gone over, helps you lose weight because it's huge for how many calories are in it. It's naturally low fat. So adding some fat to that does not make it high fat, usually. The vegetables are water plus vitamins. The more you add them, the more you get full without extra calories. And you get craving control. Eating the way you see on the left more and more will help you not want that dessert on the right. So that was high sugar, high fat foods. I want to move on to restaurants and takeout. This talk is really about where a lot of the calories are coming from for most people. And restaurants and takeout are, in my opinion, right now, the biggest influence on America's weight. Uber Eats, takeout food, the variety we have access to, it's inexpensive. We don't have to leave our house to get it. There's a lot going on here. And when you're at a restaurant specifically, there's a lot of influencing how much you eat. So large portions cause you to overeat on average. But that doesn't mean that portion control helps with weight loss. But large portions contribute to overeating. Big variety of foods, huge menu, appetizers, desserts, entrees, high fat foods. It is almost impossible to find an entree at a restaurant where the calories from fat are less than 50%. In most cases, most of the calories you're eating in a given entree is from fat. So some appetizers, there's so much fat in the skin of chicken that any skin-covered chicken is actually a high-fat food. And if it's deep fried and covered with sugary sauce or dipped in fatty sauce, I mean, you are just really, really getting fat eating this. And this is a common thing. This is something that so many people eat so much of. Pasta, which is 11% fat, is not what's contributing to the weight gain at a restaurant. When you add enough fat to something, when you use ground meat, which is mostly fat calories itself, the dish becomes high fat. It's no longer a carb. You should call it what it is. You are eating a source of fat, primarily. So salads as a weight-losing tool, they primarily work in the way I've described, as part of an ideal plate with lots of healthy carbs in equal proportions, vegetables, fruits, or both. Like that, those are the food groups in a salad or in a plate that are going to actually cause the weight loss. It's not a salad, just any salad. And at a restaurant, you get such a contribution of fat to salads. So you have breaded, fried chicken strips, or you have a load of dressing, so much cheese. And in a Cobb salad like this one here, most of the calories are coming from the cheese, the eggs, and I guess that's ham or bacon. So there's mostly fat calories in all three of those foods. So this is just a high fat meal. It's a salad, but it has an enormous amount of calories. Anything fried, other than sometimes potatoes, is over half the energy from fat. So a chicken drumstick with the skin on it, most of the energy is already from fat. And then you deep fry that and you bread it, starts to hold on to oil in the batter, and you are just ingesting a lot of oil and a lot of fat from chicken skin. Chinese food, certainly the breaded, fried General Tso's, but also entrees they have so much oil in them, more than you would cook with at home. And you pair that with rice, that is an overeating event. However, you pair the rice with a lot of veggies and get very full from those two food groups before you move on to General Tso. That's a meal that won't be a disaster. And depending on how well you do it, it can be a meal that helps you lose weight. And then you get to try the General Tso's still. When you add a cup of sour cream or cheese to a box of pasta, it becomes a dish that's 50% fat. And that is not the exception, that's the rule with pasta recipes and restaurants. Not a carb, this is a fat source. Curries, coconut milk is mostly fat. So a curry, where you eat a lot of it, you sort of skimp on the rice, you just eat basically a big portion of fat. And a better way to do this would be to get a side of sticky rice and a Thai salad, and to get mostly full from those two foods in equal proportions, and then have a small sample as a delicacy of the curry at the end. And that would be a meal that would be helpful in this situation. A lot of added fat at so many different types of restaurants. Indian restaurants can be from the cream, from the butter, mostly fat calories. Burgers, already high fat. You add cheese, fries. Most of the calories are fat. These aren't carbs. This is fat. And so meals can add up in calories very, very fast. So I talked about individual foods. I'm now going to show you everything together. So at a bagel shop, when you get the standard, solid inch or 3/4 of an inch of cream cheese, across the bagel, you are getting mostly fat calories. You add a juice to this, or a coffee drink, you're getting close to 1,000. When there's enough cheese, sour cream, chips as a side, tons of avocado, the way people have Mexican food is so much fat that you're looking at a meal that's really, really high, 1,300 calories. You add the fries to the burger, you have a soda or beer, you're looking at a day's worth of calories for certain people at a healthy body weight, or very close to that. Chicken with the skin is high fat, so rotisserie chicken is chicken breast and other parts soaked with fat. So it is a high fat meal, and when it's paired with sides that have a lot of mayo, or if it's macaroni and cheese or something, this can get very, very high calorie, and it's from fat. So again, back to the curry, without enough of a balance of the veggies, mostly rice and veggies, and you eat mostly curry, it gets up in calories. Not uncommon for people to have 2 pieces of pizza and some wings and a soda, and that is certainly very close to most of your calories for the day for someone at a healthy weight. Even fine dining, of course. Appetizers, cheese-rich appetizers, mostly fat calories. There's no calories in veggies. That piece of bread is, 40 calories, and then you've got probably 200 calories of cheese. You put enough steak or dressing on a salad, it's high fat. And if you have a drink of wine, it's fine to have a glass of wine, of course, but the way that it functions with your weight is that it turns into fat. It's not exactly what happens, but that is the effect it has on your body. So you can think of that just as that amount of calories in body fat added. Lunch special from a Chinese food restaurant or similar, you're looking at far more than a meal's worth of calories, easily 2 meals worth. Chicken, which is a low-fat thing, chicken breast, which is low-fat, breaded, fried, covered in cheese. You don't have really calories from anything else, so you're looking at a very, very high-calorie meal. At an Indian restaurant, get a lassi, have just white rice and the butter chicken, and those two together, it's very powerful. And of course, a sweet drink is going to just add calories that mostly turn to fat. So clearly, it's hard, and I'm not trying to beat up on restaurants, but you really need to know where the calories are coming from. And as I said earlier, an enormous amount of calories in the American diet is currently coming from takeout and restaurants. And it's because it's so convenient. People are busier, they're working more, people are more overextended and stressed. Things aren't easy, and this is tied in. So let's go through some strategies. You can get through a restaurant meal and do fine. It is a change, quite a change, from the way most people would eat at a restaurant. But if you're motivated, you can look at every meal as an opportunity to lose and to keep your calories low and still moving. You don't have to draw attention to yourself. You really don't. You can sort of be sly about it and come up with a script that helps you. If you are asked questions or something about what you're eating, you can just explain it easily. So strategy number 1 is still to get close to the perfect plate. Now, what this looks like at a restaurant is usually side dishes and appetizers. So it's not the most exciting thing to hear, of course, but if you can focus on getting this food in first, so a salad and a side of potatoes before you move on to the entree, you get nearly completely full from those first 2 things and then move on to it. You are eating strategically, and it's going to help. So appetizers, side dishes. At a Greek restaurant, my go-to is often lemon potatoes, Greek salad, and I share a souvlaki with my wife, and we each have a few pieces. We take it home, we eat some more of those pieces with other meals with the same proportions over the next day or so, and it works. An Italian restaurant can be hard because of added fat and stuff, but I think you can find some options, and you can certainly work with appetizers. There's a few here. And get full on those foods. Eat strategically. Preload with veggies or mix a lot of them with the starch, with the carb. Get almost completely full with those two food groups, and then move on to the stuff that's very rich and to the things that are counterproductive to weight loss. Protect yourself, but still partake, still participate in the dinner. So, a few more examples. You could do well at a Mexican restaurant, but certainly the cheese, the sour cream, the guacamole, and the chips add a lot of oil and kind of refined fat and bring things up very fast. So you really want to stick to the grains, the legumes, the vegetables, stick to salsa, and go light on the avocado as best you can. Burrito bowls are an amazing way to go, but you just have to be aware of how much fat's going on, including the avocado. Got to go light. A Chinese food restaurant, actually, it's simultaneously the most difficult in terms of high-calorie dishes, but also one of the easiest to survive. And that's just because Chinese side dishes are very convenient. Someone's made the rice for you, someone's made a bunch of vegetables for you, you don't have to chop it, you don't have to do anything. You can get some sauce on the side, you can share an entree with someone, but keep that very light, get almost entirely full on the mushu vegetables or the mixed vegetables plus the rice, then move on to the entree. Or if you're cool with just doing the veggies and rice, that's fine. You have a lot of room for protein adjustment in your diet. So Thai, basically the same thing. My favorite thing is sticky rice and Thai salad, mango or papaya salad. And then I usually share an entree. So you can eat bagels and lose weight. You just want to use the cream cheese appropriately as a flavoring agent and primarily eat it with veggies. One of my favorites is very light salmon salad or very light cream cheese, and then cucumbers, tomato, and red onion, and sometimes pickles. And you eat a nice bagel. It's very enjoyable, and that's the way that meal is very likely helping with weight loss. Veggie wrap is always a good option, very low calorie. If there's a salad bar, that is pure gold. So I'm sure I don't have to explain why. Very easy to make the perfect plate with a salad bar option. You just want to get carbs, you want to get veggies and fruits. Strategy number 2. So you're trying to make the plate, but strategy number 2, that's strategy 1. Strategy number 2 is that you can protect yourself by having enough food before you go. If you know you're going out to dinner, make sure you have breakfast that day. Make sure you have a big lunch or both. You can even eat immediately before you go. If you have some healthy food you can snack on, or if you can pick something up an hour or two before and then go, you head into that environment protected against all of those factors that I mentioned, the social cues, the portions, the variety, and such. So this is preventive. Keep it simple. Had a big lunch, just not very hungry today. Want to save it for later. Save the entree for later. Strategy number 3 is simply to avoid alcohol as much as you can. The effect of alcohol on our body is very similar to what happens with fat. That's not exactly how it works, but alcohol is very weight gaining because of multiple effects. It, in addition to essentially being equal to body fat, in its effect, you have reduced inhibitions. When you drink alcohol, you're more likely to overeat or sort of be impulsive with food. And alcohol can also lower your blood sugar, which makes you hungry. So there's a lot going on there. It's fine to have drinks, of course, but it's good to know the effects of different things you're doing, and these are the effects of alcohol. So I want to conclude by talking about the phases of change, going more into that. So as you bring your diet up to date with a healthy plate, phase 1 for most people is side dishes. And this is exactly what I talked about at restaurants. You are getting most of your energy now, to get healthy now from humble foods, from healthy carbs. These are not the foods of celebration. These are not the foods of kings and queens. These are very humble foods. And so if you can really focus on this plate, you don't have to change a whole lot about what you're eating. You can cook a new vegetable, eat a lot of it, try to eat that first. You can add, a mixture of different things, rice and beans. Here is quinoa and brown rice in that pouch. You can microwave. Just adding that stuff, treating that as what's making you full, getting very full off those things, then moving on to the other things. This is a strategy that works, and it's certainly the most feasible thing to do in the beginning. And the veggies, of course, as I've said many times, are an important part of that, adding the sides. So phase 2 of this process is an experiment where you just go for it. You eat the perfect plate, just half healthy carbs, half vegetables or fruits or both. You leave the protein out of it. And the reason this is important is because when you do this, you have removed all aspects of your diet that can get in the way of weight loss. All that's remaining now are things that are helpful. And there could be some brown sugar on your oats. There can be some fat added to your pasta with the veggies. As I said, a light layer of cream cheese on a piece of white bread with veggies, a veggie sandwich, that's there too, but you've essentially removed everything else that can slow you down. And you don't have to think of this as a commitment at all. This is about balance. And while you're in therapy, when you're in diet therapy, you try to be as perfect as possible if you're sufficiently motivated. And this is what perfect looks like. If you can, take it out for a spin. Do a few days, do a week, do a month, do more. You'll be fully in therapy, and if you have some activity on top of doing that, you will see, in most cases, quite good health improvement, in many cases, very dramatic health improvement and disease reversal. And so that is where you get the full food feedback. If you just stay in phase 1, you might not really get it, you might not really experience it, you might not lose weight at the pace that you want to. So I do encourage everyone who's really motivated to do what actually works best. And so try this out. You may find that it changes your perspective on food kind of forever. This is what happens most often. The positive food feedback is a milestone in this process. Without having gotten that, it can be hard. It might be impossible to see how this can work long term, so you really have to go for it. Phase 3 of the process is you've done it. You've seen some progress, you've done an experiment, you've been in treatment, you've decided you want to continue it in some proportion of foods that suits you. So at that point, to make it sustainable and to keep losing weight that you keep off because of new habits, you just have to keep building habits and trying new foods and staying organized and remembering your grocery list. Remembering to follow the times of the week for you that work for prep and shopping. And there's a lot of strategy here. And there's a lot that you can do to stay organized here. And this is probably the hardest part. But as you work through this, you really get to a new level. And it can be rocky. Weight loss is like the stock market in reverse when you're doing something evidence-based. A lot going on here. We don't know always why it fluctuates, but with the persistence, with the habit change in phase 3, you are getting to a point where the rockiness, where the peaks and valleys are going to level off. You're going to be very stable over time. Now phase 4 is when you've done that. You've done really well, but you go through a major backslide because we're in the struggle. We are surrounded by meats and sweets. And you get pulled back into cravings. Holidays come around, vacation, you go away, social events, barbecues, summer. And the bounce back from those events or from those periods where you sort of lapse back into how you used to eat, getting out of those is its own skill set. And that is also something you have to get good at. During this period, you have negative food feedback too, which is incredibly important. You've been feeling good for a really long time, your weight's been good, your labs are good, and then you fall back into it and you don't feel good. You don't like the way you feel. Your energy's changed, your sleep has changed. You eat a meal and you're tired afterwards instead of feeling light and energized. That's just as important as a positive food feedback. So phase 4 is very, very important. And withstanding the drift back, the skill set of bouncing back is one of the most important things to really develop. So phase 5 is when you really have all the skill sets going for you. You may backslide, but it's going to be for brief periods of time. It's going to be circumstantial. When you're home and cooking and in control of things, you really are quite skilled at staying on track. And over time, it's just about variety and having a healthier mindset, being active, maybe getting involved in things like meditation or other types of relaxation techniques. Maybe you start to find more time to do something pleasurable, like a hobby, or you're just in a good place. You've got the skill set. There's back and forth, but if you're in a healthy mindset, this is really where you want to end. And what's cool about a really optimized diet is that your weight loss, the trajectory is very interesting when you combine exercise into it. Now, when you start eating a lot more carbs, some people may have a bump in weight that is due to water. You are eating more carbs, you're storing more of them in your muscles. This is not water weight, this is muscle weight. It is weight that's in your muscles, and that changes, but underneath that bump, you're losing fat weight. And so weight starts to go down, and depending on your starting weight, it may look different. The pace may be different. Depending on your level of physical fitness and how active you are, it may look different. There's things you can do to tweak it and to help it accelerate, but it looks a little different for everyone. And when you get to kind of a new level, because for any change you do, you're going to plateau. But that does not mean this is the end of your weight loss, because it's the properties of these foods in that left-sided meal, that meal I keep going back to, that you really just can't turn stuff like that into fat. It's not the way your body works. It would be so wasteful of energy. You would have to overeat by so much to even initiate such a process. So if you're eating filling foods that are a bit rougher and less refined than the usual pattern, that you really can't overeat, that are very low fat, and you're physically active on top of that burning fat, or fasting on top of that burning fat, you can get to a new level. You can chip away with weight loss by combining evidence-based nutrition like this with exercise. You can do it with keto, and you can do it this way too. So when your weight loss plateaus, it's not the end of your story. You're going to keep moving as you add more activity, get in better shape, doing the things you like that are sustainable for you. And then it's just persistence. And you can go, just like the food, you can go through periods of treatment. So say you're staying at a level weight, eating well for several months. The summer comes around and you decide to become a jogger or do a lot of biking in the summer. That can be a period of time when you're losing weight and in treatment. Fall comes around, you're not biking as much. The winter comes around, you're not biking as much, but you're still eating well. You're just not going to gain weight. You may stop losing because you've stopped being as active, but you're just not going to gain. Not unless things really change from a more healthy diet.